Welcome to Heaven Diplomats, where we have the profound privilege of sharing stories that offer a glimpse into the beauty that awaits us beyond this earthly existence. These stories are not just tales. They are real experiences, generously shared by those who have touched the edge of eternity and returned to tell their stories. We believe that each story is a testament to the grace, love, and purpose that awaits every one of us, and it is our mission to bring these narratives to life through the power of audio. Our ministry, which we humbly refer to as Heaven's Diplomats to Earth, is dedicated to conveying these sacred stories with respect, compassion, and authenticity. Every story is shared honoring the experiencer journey and their desire to bring hope, peace, and understanding to others. We see ourselves as stewards of these messages, ensuring they are presented in a way that uplifts, enlightens, and offers comfort to all who listen. We are driven by a deep sense of responsibility to help others understand the greater purpose of life and the beauty that lies beyond. We hope that through these stories, you will find inspiration, solace, and a renewed sense of purpose. Thank you for joining us on this journey. We invite you to listen with an open heart and mind, and to embrace the messages of hope, love, and divine purpose that these stories convey. Together, let us explore the profound mysteries of life and the incredible future that awaits us all. We are honored to introduce our next guest, a remarkable individual who has journeyed to the brink of eternity and returned with a story that is both profound and inspiring. Their experience offers a unique perspective on the beauty and purpose that lies beyond our earthly life, and they have graciously chosen to share it with us. As you listen, we encourage you to open your heart to the wisdom and insight that our guest brings. Their story is a testament to the love and grace that surrounds us all, and we are privileged to have the opportunity to hear it firsthand. Please join us in welcoming our next guest, as they share their extraordinary near-death experience with us. My name was Anne. Since my experience, I have changed my name. I grew up in a Southern Methodist family, one of 6 kids, regular childhood, was an average student, went to college for a year and was too immature to handle the responsibility, so I came home. My plan B was to go to secretarial school and marry a nice boy, have some kids. Pretty average beginnings, I think. I met a man who saw my picture in my college yearbook. A lot of circumstances happened to line up for us to meet. I had missed the appointment to have my picture taken twice. Finally, someone had to beg me to come and get my picture taken for the yearbook. The man I met was a friend of a friend, and he saw my picture while at his friend's house. He then tracked me down and told me that we had to meet. We did after many phone calls. We were married 5 months later. He was 11 years my senior. My parents were glad to marry me off. Needless to say, the conflict between us began immediately. He was controlling and I was, 19 years old. I did not want to get married, but did it anyway for something to do. The gravity of my decision hit me literally. I had no training in abuse, so I had no appropriate behaviors to get out of it. I believed that once people got married, it should be forever. How could I get divorced after my parents spent so much on the wedding and all those gifts? I had to make it work, but it didn't. Not ever. I lost a baby and then finally had another when I was 22 years old. A baby girl. Then the beatings and the anger from my husband escalated. I told my parents about it, but they thought I was exaggerating. Then one day after a bad golf game, he came into the kitchen and started hitting me and yanking me around the kitchen by my neck. It came to a halt when he lifted me up off the floor and pressed my neck into the kitchen wall. He was screaming and wild-eyed. I started to struggle. I looked into his eyes and knew he was out of control. He no longer knew what he was doing. I thought to myself that I was not going to get out of this one. Then a calm poured into my body and the sounds faded away. I could still see him but could not hear him. Then I saw a man in the distance above the kitchen range coming toward me. My head turned, but it passed through my physical head. I watched my life go past me like a flip card version. It was short and there were no offenses. It was explained to me that I was young and hadn't had time to really hurt anyone. This man, who was in a robe, asked me, "Are you ready to go?" I asked him, "What will happen to my daughter?" Then I was shown her life. She would live with his mom and would grow up loved and have a good life. I said, "I am ready, but how does this work? Will I float through the rafters into space?" The next thing I knew, I was floating upward into a dark space that went on forever. There was no light, per se, but it was filled with sparkles. But I couldn't see them. I could see, but there was nothing to see. It is hard to describe. I was aware of infinite knowledge and order. There were no churches. It was definitely impressed upon me that there is no good or bad as we know it. All is learning and all is forgiven. I also had no memory of where I had just come from. I looked forward and saw a lighted tunnel, and at the entrance were many people. They saw me coming and alerted the person in charge. This person came floating up to me. He reached me in an instant. I immediately knew him as Uncle. I remember thinking, I don't have an uncle who looks like him. He was dressed in khaki pants, a white shirt, and a tan sweater vest. He carried a clipboard. I thought, how odd. He had floated just a bit in front of my path, blocking me from going further. Then he telepathically said, "It is not your time." In the same manner, I told him, "I am going home." It was sort of like saying, "What are you talking about?" Seeing how I willed to go forward, he talked to others who were somewhere else. They told him to show me something. Then he came up beside me and we both looked down onto the earth. All over the US and some other countries, there were groups of people, some 3, some 1 person, some many people, etc., at work doing what looked like triage work of mending hearts by putting their hands over the hearts of others. It seemed at times they would roll them into what looked like caves. Once they were healed, they would be wheeled out again and set on their way. Most of the healings worked, but some failed. They were working so fast to get as many healed as possible. They also wore white. I asked if they were nurses. "No," he said. I said, almost in disbelief, "But there are only thousands of them." And then he said, "That is all we need." They would tip the balance. What they did was all that was necessary to do to accomplish what needed to be done. Then I saw this whole group of people become one consciousness because of something they on the other side had activated within them. They became one. At that moment, they were able to send a bolt of pure light into the world through their bodies. It entered through their backs, behind their hearts, and exited through their chest and out into the world and into every nook and cranny of the world. Then the fog of shadows and fear rolled back and a new age of heaven on earth came. It wasn't going to last forever, but it would for many thousands of years. Everything would be different. I looked at him and he said, "We need you there." Then I remembered it was my contract to be there and to do my part. It was my husband's part to send me over to see this and experience what I was seeing. It was just a role for which he had no bad intentions. It was up to me to remember and not play a victim. With that, I found myself back in my body, but there still were no sounds. It was calm and peaceful and full of love. I felt chosen and special and content. Then the sounds came back. My husband was still screaming at me, "Are you afraid of me now?" I said, "No, you sent me to my father." How I said this, I do not know. This jolted him awake, it seemed to me, and he dropped me to the floor. Then he stormed out the door. I collapsed in a heap, which was so peaceful and easy. Life is going to be great. But then I heard what felt like banging pots and pans and clatter and thousands of voices all at once. At first, it was far away and then it came closer. I sat in anticipation of it coming nearer. Then, with a swoosh, all of this world's fear and chatter and business came back into my body. I felt so sad and so far from home. I knew I was done with this relationship and I divorced soon after. I did not prosecute nor did I mention it to anyone until 15 years later. I didn't want to be locked up in psyche ward. It was weird. I was homesick and wanted to go home. But I had a daughter and a life to make. When I went to the ions.org meetings, I started to remember things about my experience, like the sparkles. I remember even trying to find words for what I experienced, but there are no words that capture the feeling, the knowledge, the way things are over there. Love is completely different. There is an intelligence which my brain cannot even begin to know the whole picture, nor even a small part of it. It did seem that the vision of the future I was shown was going to happen around the time I reached my 40s. It seemed, because that is how I looked at it. But I am 52 now and I still have no clue what it means specifically. I do try to help people find and act on their hearts in everything I do. I wouldn't describe me as a peaceful or contented person. My life has had many losses in it and hurts. Nothing has been easy but oddly difficult. I came back very psychic, which I hated. I didn't want to know what people really thought because most of them are unaware of what they are actually thinking. I blew every light bulb I came in contact with. Watches stopped working. Cash registers added up wrong or stopped. Weird woo-woo stuff happens all the time. Sometimes more than at other times. I had a man I slept with and I could hear he and his daughters out of their bodies playing all night. I finally got up and told them to get back in their bodies and hush up and go to sleep. Then I listened to all his dreams as he had them. It was a long night. I couldn't be with him because it was too much noise. But do you think I'm going to tell anyone about this? Heck no! People see white swirling lights around me from time to time. These psychic happenings make dating very hard. I can talk telepathically to some animals, but not all of them. Like humans, some animals are evolved and some are unaware. Horses are my favorite because they are so clear. Sometimes I will answer someone's question when it enters their head. This spooks everyone out. Sometimes I find myself somewhere I didn't intend to go to, but I would be just in time to help someone there in a vital way. That doesn't happen so much anymore. While this may seem great, it is not. I don't see everything. My daughters think I'm nuts. Going out on dates are few and far between. It seems the less I say, the better. I am now trained in remote viewing. I know anyone can have these experiences without dying. God is no longer a belief. God is a knowing, and that is a comfort to me. But people who try to take my experience and use it to validate a religious point drive me nuts. Some people say this is what Rudolf Steiner said, or this is anti-Christian. But it is neither, because nothing can even begin to encompass God in the realm I felt. There is nothing like it here on earth yet. But evidently, someday there will be. Going to IANS has helped me a lot. I live day by day. I suffer disappointments also. I wish I had the answers for a perfect life, but I don't. Because many other people have experienced this, more is being written about it, and more parts are coming forward. But just remember, there are no words for a multidimensional timeless experience. I am not saying, in any way, that murder is part of a divine plan. It is not. I am just saying that it was only for me. My ex-husband and I have talked about it, and we have forgiven each other. We are on good terms, but we don't hang out together. We are not friends. That was then, and it is now in the past. All is forgiven and understood. My daughter, now 30 years old, lives with her dad and helps him in his business. He has mellowed and has become so sensitive that he no longer goes hunting nor considers it a sport. He once watched a deer cry as it was dying. He cried his heart out and vowed to never hurt another living thing. He is still a country boy at heart, just a gentler one. There are happy endings, but sometimes it takes time. By the way, many years later, I was looking through my grandmother's photos years after her death and found some photos of my grandfather's brothers. I came across a picture of Uncle. It was the man I saw on the other side. My grandfather and his brothers had died years before I was even born. I had never seen these photos before.